Dear first year students, today I will discuss the second and the last part of the poem Oft in the Stilly Night. Yesterday, I have sent you the video that is about the first part of the poem Oft in the Stilly Night. Today, the second and the last part. In a single video, I will send you the video. You have to be very attentive. You have to be very attentive to the video. You have to listen to the video minutely, meticulously. Then you will grasp something, collect something, gather something out of the video. Because this is an online class and you have to be very meticulous, serious. So, dear students, I want to say the poet Thomas Moore, who belongs to Ireland, Thomas Moore, an Irish poet. Ireland, the adjective form of Ireland is Irish, and he belongs to Ireland. And because of this, he is called an Irish poet. And Thomas Moore has given the recollection of his boyhood days, or he has already made recollection. He has recollected his boyhood days since he is old. Maybe he is old, what I think. Maybe he is old. Otherwise, he will never collect, he will never recollect, he will never gather, he will never remember, he will never reminisce his past days, the dead past. And I think that perhaps the poet has got old, and during this stage, when he is no one, when he is palely loitering, and he has already made a Bharabhala journey, the journey of the mind. So that is why in the poem we find the Bharabhala journey, the journey of the mind. And he has already gone back to his boyhood days, which is full of joys and sorrows, no doubt, full of joy, happiness. And in old age, since nobody is with him, he is deserted, the man is deserted, the man is segregated, the man is deserted, and in this stage he makes a recollection. And all the reminiscences of the bygone days, all the reminiscences of the bygone days have come to his mind in the stilly night. And the name of the poet, Often in the Stilly Night, or Oft in the Stilly Night. I have told you the meaning of oft, that is most of the times or sometimes. In Indian context, that is used as sometimes. You come to the poem, dear students. So, this is about nostalgia. The poem is about nostalgia. He has become nostalgic. What is nostalgic? What is nostalgia? He has already gone back to the dead past. His childhood days, his boyish days. He is memorizing, he is recollecting, he is reminiscing, he is gathering his boyhood days. So that is why the poet is called nostalgic, or the poet is called nostalgic. He is haunted by a sense of nostalgia. He is haunted by a sense of nostalgia. So I want to say that oft in the stilly night, here slumber's chain has bound me. Fond memory brings the light of other days around me. The smiles, the tears of boyhood's years, the words of love then spoken, the eyes that shone, now dimmed and gone, the cheerful hearts now broken. So in the first line of the poem you mark, oft in the stilly night. It is a tranquil night, it is a stilly night, and it is a solitary night when the poet is found alone. In that night, he makes a recollection, oft in the stilly night, sometimes in the stilly night. Sometimes in the stilly night, ere slumber's chain has bound me, ere, ere means before. So that is a Middle English poetic diction. So it is called a Middle English poetic diction. So without using before, the poet has used the word ear, E-R-E. That was used in Middle Ages. So that refers to the Old English. Ear, E-R-E. So that is why it is called the Middle English poetic diction. The Middle English poetic diction. Oft in the stilly night, yet slumbers a chain has bound me. Before the slumber comes to him, before the sleep, in noun form I am telling, before the sleep comes to him, before he sleeps, fond memory brings the light of other days around him. The fond memory is fond of the memories. The fond memories, very close memories. Very close memories. His fond memories bring the light. Fond memories bring the light of other days around you. What the poet has pointed out, the fond memory brings, the fond memory in singular form, the fond memory brings the light of other days around you. So the other days refers to his childhood days, his boy's days, and his memory brings the light of other days, the light of the boyhood days to him. In the darkness, in the dungeon of the night, alone, he recollects his dead past. He recollects his past which is associated with his childhood days. That is linked with his childhood days, linked with his boyhood days. So here slumbers chain has bound me before he sleeps. When he goes to bed, and by that time, he never sleeps. Rather, he remembers. And sometimes he remembers the dead past. He becomes nostalgic. He is haunted by the sense of nostalgia. He reminisces. He gathers. He recollects the past days, the dead past, the past memory. And the past memory is very important for him today. Because it gives him hope. When the poet is hopeless, in the old age, he has already become hopeless. That may be the feeling of the poet. That may be the feeling of the poet because the feeling is very great, you mark. The feeling of every writer, the feeling of the poet is very great. So that is why the poet may be old, or that may be the feeling of the old man. That is the feeling of the old man. So the poet wants to say that fond memory brings the light of other days around me. What is light? Light is the hope. Light is the aspiration. Light is the impetus. Light is the hope. And when the poet is hopeless, when the poet is totally pessimistic, when the poet is totally pessimistic, remaining alone, staying alone, lying flat in the bed, when the poet is found alone, and he makes a recollection, and the fond memory brings the light of other days around me. It brings the light. So it becomes transparent. The fond memories become transparent, are very clear just before him. At night, in the stilly night, in the tranquil night, in the clammy night, in the calm night. In the calm night, in the clammy night, in the tranquil night, in the stilly night, the poet makes a recollection of other days around me. So other days around me means other days. What is the meaning of other days? That is the days of the past. Past days related to his boyhood days, related to his childhood days, the other days around me. So other days may also refer to the future. What is the future? He is perhaps thinking about his death. The poet is thinking about his death. The other time may refer to. But that is unimportant. That is not because he is not aware of death. Death consciousness is there. Death consciousness. But he never fears death. He never fears death. Like that of John Donne. He never fears death. John Donne is a poet. And who never fears death? Death, thou must die. Death will die. Because it will never kill your soul. It will never kill our souls. It will kill our bodies. Transitory bodies. Temporary bodies. It will kill. Of other days around me. So there is hope against hopelessness. And optimism is followed by pessimism, and pessimism is sometimes followed by optimism. They go also side by side. They go also side by side. When he is hopeless, when he is hopeless, he recollects the boyhood days. And when he becomes hopeful, he does not memorize the boyhood days. But in such a state, in such a condition, the poet is bound to recollect, every old man is bound to recollect the days associated with the boyhood, associated with the boyhood, or that is that these things are linked with the boyhood. Fond memory brings the light of other days around me. You mark. Oft in the stilly night, here slumber's chain has bound me. Slumber's chain has bound me. Slumber has no capacity to bind him, but it is binding him, because it brings slumber for him. It brings sleep for him at night. Night is the time for rest. But just before he sleeps, he makes a recollection. And the second line of the poem is about the personification, you mark. The second line of the poem is about personification. Fond memory brings the light. It is also personification. Fond memory brings the light of other days around me. The second and the third lines are the symbol of personification. They give you personification, and personification is nothing but a figure of a speech. Personification is nothing but a figure of a speech. In the second line, we find a personification, and in the third line, we find another personification of other days around me. The smiles, the tears. And the smiles are there, the smiles and the tears. So the poet has used them in plural form. The smiles and the tears of boyhood years. The words of love that are spoken, the eyes that are shown. The smiles and the tears. The smiles and the tears, the past memory you mark, full of smiles, full of happiness, full of joy, full of ecstasy, full of rapture, full of supreme pleasure. So these past days are having all these things. The tears are also there, no doubt, but the tears are quite meaningless. Seriously, the boyhood days are very amusing days. They are very happy days. They are very, very peaceful days, happy days. And these tears have no meaning at all. The tears have no meaning at all then. The tears have no meaning. The tears have become joys. Only joys, nothing but joys. Only joys, nothing but joys. And the smiles, the tears of a boyhood's years, the words of love that are spoken, the words of love that are spoken, loving words, the soothing words, the words of consolation, the soothing words, loving words, soft words, tender words, soft words, loving words, soothing words, the words of consolation. So, these words are no more found. These words are no more found. This voice is lost. That voice has gone. The man has gone. The woman has gone. His friends have gone. Comrades have gone. Keith and kin have gone. They have all deserted him. Some are abroad. Some have already gone abroad. And some are away from him. And some have already died away. So that is why the poet is aggrieved. The poet is aggrieved. The poet is bereaved. The poet is sad at heart. The poet is sad at heart. The smiles and the tears of a boyhood's years, the words of love that are spoken, the eyes that are shown, the words of love that are spoken, loving words, soothing words. And these words are never found. The eyes that are shown, the eyes that are shown, death in the eyes. The poet has seen death in the shining eyes. So, remaining away, you mark the speed of the mind. You mark the speed of the mind, that is important. His mind has gone from old age to the childhood days. And that is the speed of the mind. Within a twinkle of an hour, within the spur of the moment, within a very limited time, short time. He has already gone back he has already gone from old age to his childhood age. And he is now memorizing, and he sees death in the shining eyes. And many have already gone. Many have already become the victims of death. They have been victimized. They are the objects of death. They are the prey, P-R-E-Y. They are the prey of death, objects of death, victimized, and the victims of death. And the poet has seen death in the shining eyes. Once upon a time, the eyes were shining. Once upon a time, the eyes were shining, but today, the poet has marked, or the poet has seen death in the shining eyes. Perhaps everybody has gone. Everybody has gone. Who were once upon a time? He is very dear and near ones. He is very close, very intimate. They are chaps and chums. They are chaps and chums, close, comrade, very intimate friends. And they have perhaps gone only because of that. The poet is bereaved. The poet is sad at heart. And the poet is completely outwitted, astounded, dazed, astounded completely. Now deemed and gone, the cheerful hearts are now broken. And the cheerful hearts are now broken. Now deemed and gone. The shining eyes have become dim. The shining eyes have become dim. And the shining eyes have gone, perished. So in the course of time, these shining eyes have already been transformed into a different way. It has been transformed into a different way. And the shining eyes are no more found. Only he sees death reigns. Only he sees that death reigns everywhere. Death comes and attacks him. And his dear and near ones have gone. His only close, intimate chaps have gone. And that is why the poet is alone, solitary, palely loitering hither and thither. I have told you, palely loitering hither and thither, here and there, and without getting any support, physical or mental. That is why he is going back to the childhood death to get support or get boosting for his mind or for his psychology. That is the mental support the poet is getting. And the cheerful hearts now broken, it is about a metaphor. The cheerful hearts is having a metaphorical use. It is having a metaphorical delineation. It is a metaphorical analysis. The cheerful hearts now broken down. The relationship has already broken down. T.S. Eliot has already pointed out. London Bridge has broken down. London Bridge has fallen down. London Bridge has fallen down. There is no rapport. There is no relationship. There is no link. So, delinked. And also, there is no rapport at all. Rapportless. There is no rapport, no connection. That has fallen down. What is the meaning of a London Bridge has fallen down? T.S. Eliot has already pointed out. London Bridge has fallen down means there is no relationship between man and man. There is no relationship between family and family, between man and man. Everything is fragmented. Everything is segregated. Everything is deserted. Everything looks uneven. Everything looks uneven. And it is very difficult to maintain the livelihood. It is very difficult to maintain the livelihood, you mark. There is a social change. There is a social change, you mark. In this changeability, it is very impossible on our part. We are facing the hardships of life, the problems of life, immense problems of life, and we feel suffocated. We feel like fish out of water. We feel like fish out of water, and that is the thing the poet is going to narrate. That there is no rapport, no connection, no link, and everything has already gone fragmented. Everything has already gone disrupted, Everything is delayed. And the cheerful hearts now, Brukun, cheerful hearts have already gone. So his dear and a cheerful heart, the small boys who had the shining eyes, who had the cheerful hearts. So all these things have already gone. Though by using a metaphor, cheerful heart, by using a metaphor, the poet has given rise to different meanings. Because that cheerful heart refers to denotes many meanings, connotes many meanings. It has different connotations or it has different denotations. The cheerful heart has a different connotation and a different denotations. So that is why that is metaphorically used. The last line of the first stanza. The last line of the first stanza is metaphorically used. What is a metaphor? Metaphor is a comparison, you don't know. Simile is a comparison, metaphor is a comparison. And there is explicit comparison in simile. But in metaphor, there is implicit comparison. The comparison is implicit. And you cannot see easily. What is metaphor? You cannot find out what is metaphor. But simile can easily be told of. Simile can easily be told. It can easily be told of. It can easily be found out. But metaphor cannot be found out because there is implicit comparison in a metaphor. But there is explicit comparison in a simile. So that is why the first part is about the sense of nostalgia the poet has given. The sense of nostalgia the poet has given, and he has become nostalgic, and he is reminiscing his dead past, his past days, his days associated with his boyhood days, and just before the slumber comes to him, before the sleep comes to him at night, the poet remembers all these things most of the nights because he is alone. Perhaps he is old. You come to the second stanza of the poem. Thus in the stilly night, here slumbers a chain has bound me. Sad memory brings the light of other days around me. So this is the second stanza of the poem is nothing but a repetition. So same lines have been repeated. The same lines in the first stanza, same lines have been repeated. They are in the second stanza of the poem. Thus in the stilly night, thus word is a new word here in the second stanza, but still in the stilly night is there. Thus in the stilly night here slumbers a chain has bound me. Sad memory, instead of writing fond memory. In the first stanza there is a fond memory, but in the second stanza there is a sad memory. You will see the book. Students, you have to see the books. In the first stanza of the poem, there is fond memory. The poet has narrated, the poet has told the fond memory. And in the second stanza of the poem, when he has repeated, and when there is a refrain, R-E-F-R-A-I-N, that is called a refrain. And in the second stanza of the poem, there is a refrain because that is the repetition. So repetition is not a figure of speech, rather it is a rhetoric device. So it is not a poetic device, or it is not a literary device, rather it is called a rhetoric device. Repetition is a rhetoric device. Repetition, R-E-P-E-T-I-T-I-O-N. Repetition is nothing but a rhetoric device. So here the poet has given a refrain, R-E-F-R-A-I-N. Refrain, what is a refrain? Now when the same lines are repeated frequently, the same lines are repeated frequently. So in the poem, because in these 20 lines, these 4 lines have been repeated. These 4 lines have been repeated. So that is why it is called a refrain. And when I remember all, you come to the last, you come to the third stanza of the poem. When I remember all, the friends so linked together. When I remember, when I recollect, when I memorize, when I recollect, when I remember all my friends, when I remember all, the friends are so linked together, very close to each other, my friends. I have seen around me fall. I have seen they have fallen. So they have fallen. In which way? Like leaves in a wintry weather. In winter season, like the leaves of the trees. So they have already fallen. Normally in winter, the leaves fall down. The leaves fall in winter season. And likewise, his friends, his dear and near ones, kith and kin, kinsmen have fallen, they have died. Like the withered leaves, like the withered, Witthered, like the withered leaves, like the fallen leaves, they have all gone, they have all died. I have seen around me like leaves in the wintry weather, leaves in wintry weather, like. And when there is a like in the sentence, when there is a like in the line, you will have a simile, that is called a simile. So 1, 2, 3, 4. In 4 line of the third stanza, in line 4 of the third stanza, you will have a simile, that is like. Where there is a like and edge, where there is a like or where there is a like or edge, you will have a simile. So that is explicit. That is explicit. You can easily know that is a simile. A son is like his father. The daughter is like her mother. So that is a simile. As like as. I wandered lonely as a cloud. So that is a simile. But what is a metaphor? Now the meaning, the comparison is implicit. The comparison is hidden. The comparison is hidden. And you will find what the meaning is, what its connotation is, what its denotation is. You have to find out. And like leaves in wintry weather, W sound is hard, wintry weather, and that is nothing but an alliteration. That is called an alliteration, alliteration, wintry weather, when a particular sound is repeated. When the particular sound of the consonant, consonantal sound, when a particular sound of the consonant is repeated, that is called alliteration. Consonantal sound, alliteration. Sometimes it's called consonants. Sometimes it's called consonants. And when the vowel sound is repeated, same sound is repeated, that is called assonance. When the vowel sound is repeated, that is called assonance. S-S-O-N-N-C, assonance. And like leaves in winter weather, I feel like one. Again, a like is there. That is a simile. I feel like one who treads alone. I feel like one. I am as if alone. I am as if solitary. As if I am solitary. I feel like one. What is he doing? Being one who treads alone. Walking alone, treads alone. He is now walking. He is now withered, a withered man. An old man is a withered man. An old man is a fallen man. So that is why I feel like one who treads alone. He is walking. Here, some banquet hall deserted. Some banquet hall deserted. Banquet hall, what is the meaning of banquet hall? Where the farewell meeting is arranged in special occasion. Where the farewell meeting is arranged in special occasion. Farewell meeting is arranged. They are in the banquet hall. And the poet has already given rise to, he has already used the banquet hall deserted. Nobody is there. Everybody has already been bidden farewell. B-I-D-D-E-N. Everybody has already been bidden farewell. And the banquet hall is desert. Nobody is there. Nobody is there to take farewell. Nobody is there to be bidden farewell. To be bidden farewell. Nobody is there. Perhaps everybody has gone. And some banquet hall deserted, whose lights are fled. Whose lights are fled. Some banquet hall, whose lights. And the banquet halls look deserted, full of darkness and dungeon. Full of darkness and also dungeon. I feel like one. Some banquet hall deserted, whose lights are fled. The lights have gone out. The lights have gone out. Only it is full of darkness and dungeon. Whose lights have gone. Whose lights are fled. Whose garlands are dead. Whose garlands are dead. That means the garlands have already become pieces, different pieces. The garlands have been fragmented, shattered into pieces. The garlands have been shattered into pieces. The flowers become Flowers have already become pale, pale. The flowers are pale. And garlands have been fragmented, shattered into pieces, relegated to the dustbin. So they have been relegated to the dustbin. They also look desert, and it looks lifeless. It looks lifeless. No life is there in the banquet hall. Where the special in special occasion in the banquet hall, fair well is be there. Fair well is be there in the banquet hall. So all these things have gone. And the light may also refer to the life. It may refer to the life. Because when somebody dies, we say that light has gone out. When somebody dies, we say light has gone out. So that is why the light of the hall has gone out, the life has gone out. That means the man has died. And whose lights are fled, whose garlands dead. And all but he departed. Only he is staying here. And all have gone. All but he, you mark. All but he departed. All but he departed. And only he is there. And all have gone. You mark the situation. You mark the condition, very condition of the poet. You mark the mental feeling of the poet, the psychology of the poet. And he has a depressed psychology. He has a depressed psychology. And there is a pessimism in him. We find pessimism in him. And he has already become pessimistic. And seeing death, seeing death is very near, very close. The death is very close to him, very near to him. He wants to welcome it. He wants to hail it, H-I-L. He wants to hail it. He wants to welcome it. Because he never fears death. Normally, during this stage, in the seventh stage of the life, and the old man waits for death. Sometimes he also says, why death is not coming? Why death is not coming? Should not I die? So that is the last part, the version of the last part. The version of the seventh part of life. Because Shakespeare has already given seven stages of man. So, how seven stages have been narrated, Shakespeare has already pointed out in the poem, seven stages of man. Seven stages of man, seven ages of man. So, very beautiful poem Shakespeare has written. In the last line he has given, sans teeth, sans eyes, and sans everything. Sans teeth, sans eyes, and sans everything. The old man is without teeth, without eyes, without eyesight, and without everything. And that is the very condition. You mark. But today's world is very critical. Modern world is very critical. There is no relationship between father and son. There is no relationship between girl and mother. There is no relationship, daughter and mother. Society is changing. You mark. Society is, what is the meaning of changeability? What is the meaning of this changeability? When we have eaten up our culture, when we have eaten up our tradition, when we have eaten up our religions, when we have eaten up our cultural heritage, what is the meaning of this changeability? What is the meaning of the modern age? What is the meaning of this civilization? And you want to mark, my dear students, which one is to be stuck to? Which one is to be stuck to? And thus, in the still night, again repetition has already been made. Thus, in the still night, here slumbers a chain has bound me. Sad memory brings the light of other days around. Sad memory brings the light. You mark. Sad memory, because he is very sad, he is bereft, he is dejected, he is outwitted, he is desperate, he is astounded. And in this stage, in this condition, the poet memorizes his past days, boyhood days. Very beautiful, sweet memory. Sweet memory. The poet is recollecting sweet memory. So that is a dawn when one becomes old. And nobody is with him. At that time, he will recollect all these things. Here slumbers a chain has bound me. Here slumber comes to me. Slumber means sleep. Just before his sleep. Before his sleep. Just before he goes to sleep. Just before he sleeps. He finds the sad memory. He finds his sad memory, which becomes active. The sad memory becomes active and he recollects his past memory. Recollects the past memory, boyhood memory, childhood memory of other days around me. So this is about the other days, the past days. Other day may refer to the doomsday. Other day may refer to his death. May refer to. But that is not the correct, what I think. That other day will refer to his past memory, past days associated with his boyhood days. So you see, dear students, like leaves in winter weather is a simile the poet has given. I feel like one is also another simile. And some banquet hall deserted, it is symbolically used. The banquet hall has been deserted, it is symbolically used, which is nothing but a metaphor. That is nothing but a metaphor. And the last stanza, here slumbers a chain has bound me, is a personification. Sad memory brings the light is also a personification. And the last ends, you mark, the last ends of other days around me. The last ends with the present. The sad memory and the fond memory. The sad memory and the fond memory, you mark. The sad memory and fond memory. And the poet is dwindling between the two. The poet is dangling in between the two. Is dwindling between the two. The sad memory and the fond memory. The very sweet memory and the sad memory. The boyhood memory is a very sweet memory. And the present memory, the old age memory is a very bitter memory, sad memory. And the last ends with the present, you mark. The last ends with the present. And from the very beginning, I want to say that here slumbers a chain as a bound me about the personification. It is nothing but a figure of a speech personification. And here, you mark here is a Middle English poetic diction. Other days refers to his past days, his boyhood days, other days. And he is giving about his dead past. The past days which have already gone. The past days, the days which have already gone. At night, there is occult facility, no doubt. At night, you will have that occult facility. The poet has never enjoyed that facility. The poet has never enjoyed that facility, occult facility. But rather, he makes a recollection. He makes a recollection of his boyhood days. But he never feels that facility, occult facility. OCCULT. Occult facility, the poet never feels. So, but he has seen death in the shining eyes, you mark. So, here slumbers such as a bound me is a personification. Fond memory brings in the light is another personification. There is hope against hopelessness. There is hope against hopelessness. In old age, he has become hopeless. And when he was a boy, he was hopeful. Hope against hopefulness. Reflection, reflected. He becomes a child. Sometimes he becomes a child, he becomes a boy. An old man becomes a boy. How sweet the days are, you mark. How sweet the days are, the joy are. Full of joys. Though sorrow, but the sorrow has been merged into happiness. That has come to happiness. The sorrow is meaningless. So, dear students, the eyes that are shown is also symbolically used. That is about the death, and the poet has marked death in shining eyes. He has marked death in the shining eyes. And there is a tragic loss. The poet is given a tragic loss. And tragic loss is irreparable. The tragic loss is irreparable. IRREPARABLE. The tragic loss is irreparable. So, you mark again in the first stanza, the last line of the first stanza. The last line of the first stanza, there is metaphorical analysis. Cheerful hearts may refer to his children, his friends, other boys, girls, and that is metaphorically used. And then here slumbers a chain as a bound personification, And sad memory brings the light is also a personification. Like leaves in wintry weather is there is a like and there is a simile, and wintry weather is nothing but an alliteration. W sound is hard, that is alliteration. I feel like alone is a simile, and banquet hall is nothing but a metaphor. It is also a metaphor symbolically used. And here slumbers such an as a bound personification. Sad memory brings the light, that is also the personification. And today I finished the poem. I finished the poem, and you will enjoy the poem. You will enjoy the video, see the video. Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you all. This is the second and the last part.